Imagine a room so quiet that you can hear your own heartbeat, not just faintly but as if it were amplified, echoing through your entire body. Now imagine that even your heartbeat sounds loud and intrusive, almost as if it were a drum beating in a silent hall. This is the reality of an anechoic chamber, the quietest place on Earth. These rooms are meticulously designed to eliminate all external noise and absorb internal sound reflections. The walls, floor, and ceiling are lined with sound-absorbing materials, creating an environment of almost absolute silence. The silence is so profound that it can be measured in negative decibels. Anechoic chambers are not for the faint of heart. The lack of sound can be disorienting and even distressing. Some people find the experience overwhelming as the silence presses in on them. The experience of being in one can be deeply unsettling, even for seasoned researchers. The absence of sound can make you acutely aware of your own bodily functions, like the rush of blood through your veins or the creaking of your joints. Our brains are wired to expect a certain level of ambient noise. This background noise helps us orient ourselves in the world and provides a sense of normalcy. When that noise is absent, our senses become heightened, and we start to notice things we never would have before. The ticking of a watch can sound like a hammer, and the rustle of clothing can seem deafening. However, for some, this extreme quiet can be a form of meditation. It allows them to focus inward, free from the distractions of the outside world. They find peace in the silence, a rare commodity in our noisy lives. Scientists use anechoic chambers for various experiments, from testing the acoustics of new products to studying the effects of silence on the human mind. These chambers provide a controlled environment where even the slightest sound can be measured with precision. Stepping out of an anechoic chamber can be a relief. The return to the world of sound can feel like a warm embrace, a reminder of the constant hum of life that we often take for granted. The experience of visiting the quietest place on Earth is a powerful reminder of the role that sound plays in our lives. It shapes our perceptions, influences our emotions, and connects us to the world around us. In our daily lives, we are surrounded by a symphony of sounds. From the chatter of people to the hum of machines, these sounds create the backdrop of our existence. The anechoic chamber strips all that away, leaving us with a profound sense of silence. So the next time you find yourself in a quiet room, take a moment to appreciate the sounds you can hear. They are the soundtrack of your life, a constant companion in your journey through the world. Sound is created by vibrations that travel through the air as waves. When these waves hit a surface, they are either absorbed or reflected. In an ordinary room, sound waves bounce off the walls, ceiling, and floor, creating echoes and reverberations. This is what gives a room its acoustic character. An anechoic chamber is designed to eliminate these reflections. The walls, ceiling, and floor are covered in wedges of sound-absorbing material, typically made of foam or fiberglass. These wedges are arranged in a pattern that traps sound waves and prevents them from escaping. The design of an anechoic chamber is a marvel of engineering. The goal is to create an environment where the background noise level is as close to absolute zero as possible. To achieve this, engineers use a combination of materials and design techniques. The wedges themselves are made of a material that is highly porous. This allows them to absorb sound waves effectively. The shape of the wedges is also crucial. The tapered design helps to trap sound waves and prevent them from bouncing back into the room. Stepping into an anechoic chamber is like stepping into another world. The silence is absolute, almost deafening. Without any ambient noise to mask them, the sounds of your own body become amplified. You can hear your heartbeat, your breathing, even the blood rushing through your veins. This can be a very disconcerting experience, especially at first. Our brains rely on ambient noise to help us orient ourselves in space. Without it, we can become disoriented and lose our sense of balance. The limits of human perception are truly fascinating. Our senses, sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell, are the primary ways we interact with the world around us. They shape our reality and influence our understanding of everything we encounter. But what happens when these senses are deprived of external stimuli? Anechoic chambers push these limits in ways that are, well, quite extraordinary. These rooms are designed to be completely silent, absorbing all sound reflections. They are used for various scientific experiments and to test the limits of human perception. When you step into an anechoic chamber, you are stepping into a world devoid of sound. In the absence of external stimuli, our brains begin to generate their own. This phenomenon is known as sensory deprivation. Without the usual input from our environment, the brain starts to create its own sensory experiences. This can lead to a range of unusual and sometimes unsettling sensations. People who have spent time in anechoic chambers have reported experiencing a wide range of strange and sometimes unsettling phenomena. Some describe hearing their own heartbeat, the sound of their blood flowing, or even the faint hum of their nervous system. These experiences can be both fascinating and disconcerting. Some people report hearing faint noises that seem to come from inside their own heads. These internal sounds are usually drowned out by the ambient noise of our everyday environment, but in the silence of an anechoic chamber, they become much more noticeable. Others see hallucinations or experience a distorted sense of time. The lack of external stimuli can cause the brain to create visual or auditory hallucinations. Time can seem to stretch or compress, making minutes feel like hours or vice versa. This altered perception can be quite disorienting. These effects are thought to be caused by the brain's attempt to make sense of the lack of sensory input. When deprived of external stimuli, the brain tries to fill the void by generating its own sensations. This can lead to a range of experiences from the mundane to the extraordinary. Understanding these phenomena can provide valuable insights into the workings of the human brain and the nature of perception itself. The human brain is a remarkable organ capable of adapting to a wide range of environments. However, even the brain has its limits. When we are deprived of sensory input for extended periods, our brains can start to malfunction. This is the principle behind sensory deprivation tanks, which are sometimes used for relaxation or meditation. However, prolonged sensory deprivation can have negative effects, such as hallucinations, anxiety, and even psychosis. One of the most common side effects of spending time in an anechoic chamber is auditory hallucinations. This is because the brain, starved for auditory input, begins to create its own. These hallucinations can range from simple sounds like ringing or buzzing to more complex ones like voices or music. In some cases, people have reported hearing entire conversations that were not actually taking place. The Guinness World Record for the longest time spent in an anechoic chamber is just 45 minutes. This may not sound like a long time, but in the absolute silence of an anechoic chamber, even a few minutes can feel like an eternity. The experience is so disorienting that most people find it impossible to stay in an anechoic chamber for extended periods. The lack of sensory input can lead to anxiety, panic attacks, and even hallucinations. The experience of being in an anechoic chamber highlights the important role that ambient noise plays in our lives. Even though we may not always be consciously aware of it, ambient noise helps us to orient ourselves in space, to regulate our emotions, and to feel connected to the world around us. When we are deprived of ambient noise, our brains become starved for sensory input. This can lead to a range of negative effects, both psychological and physical. The quietest place on Earth is not a place of peace and tranquility. It is a place of sensory deprivation and psychological distress. The experience of being in an anechoic chamber teaches us that silence is not always golden. Sometimes a little bit of noise is exactly what we need to feel grounded, centered, and at peace. Anechoic chambers are more than just a curiosity. These unique spaces, designed to completely absorb reflections of sound, create an environment of absolute silence. They are often described as the quietest places on Earth, where the absence of sound can be almost unsettling. They are valuable tools that are used by scientists and engineers for a variety of purposes. In these chambers, researchers can conduct experiments without the interference of external noise, allowing for precise and controlled studies. For example, anechoic chambers are used to test microphones, speakers, and other audio equipment. By eliminating background noise, engineers can ensure that their devices perform optimally in real-world conditions. This is crucial for developing high-quality audio technology that meets the demands of consumers. They are also used to study the effects of noise pollution on human health. Researchers can simulate different noise environments to understand how constant exposure to noise affects our well-being. This research is vital for creating healthier living and working environments. The next time you find yourself yearning for a little peace and quiet, remember the anechoic chamber. While it might seem like the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of daily life, the experience of absolute silence can be quite disorienting. In such a space, you can hear your own heartbeat, the blood rushing through your veins, and even the sound of your own breathing. it is a stark reminder that absolute silence is not all it's cracked up to be. Many people find the experience uncomfortable, even distressing, as the lack of external sound can amplify internal noises and create a sense of isolation. Sometimes a little bit of noise is what we need to appreciate the silence. The gentle hum of a fan, the distant chatter of people, or the rustling of leaves can provide a comforting backdrop to our lives. These sounds remind us that we are part of a larger world, full of life and activity. So, while silence has its place, it's the balance of sound and silence that truly enriches our experience.